Why go from being a pastor to a congregation to being in Congress? That's my first question. And second question is, how has it informed your ability as a leader in the Republican Study Committee?
Well, when I decided to run, I had no political connections, no political capital, and I remember many opponents reminding me of that. We just simply weren't connected politically. So we began to wonder for a little while, as we sought this, and certainly through prayer and looking into this just really short 4 years ago. The primary motivation as someone looking from the outside is I began to grow more and more frustrated with the lack of Republicans to be able to message what it is that we believed. And coming from that background where Sunday to Sunday you're constantly crafting and sharing a message of hope, and I believe there was room for us to grow in that area. And the more I thought about it, the more I prayed about it, John, the more I just felt moved to operate in this direction. Because I think it's very important that in a culture that we live in where there's so much indoctrination, even in our public education, that what is the true message of individual liberty and opportunity and hope for all of our communities? And that message was getting lost many times in the political structure, the political arena. But even I felt like that as a registered Republican, I felt there was much room for us to grow. And I remember specifically one time, my first political event I ever went to, somebody had given me a ticket to the Republican National Convention in Tampa in 2012. So
Which was interrupted by a hurricane.
Well, exactly. But I found a plane ticket and found some lodging down there, stayed with some friends, and went down there, and I just began to kind of take it all in. And I remember specifically us talking about reaching out to minorities and other communities and the next generation. But I also remember that I think our featured music group was the Oak Ridge Boys. And it was the combination, and I say that kind of in a joking manner, our messages wasn't matching our actions. And I felt like if there was a way that I could bring my relationships in there with all communities, one of the things that I'm most proud of, in fact, we became the first Republican in Congress to ever bring 85 historical black college and university chancellors and presidents to Washington, D.C. to talk about the opportunities, to talk about what we need to do, and to listen some and to learn. These are the kinds of steps that Republicans cannot be afraid of. We need to run because we have the real message. I look at it from a faith perspective, from Psalms 139. Every person is created with unique abilities and giftedness. That's why all life matters to us. Whether it's unborn, whether it's living, whether it's in the senior years of the capacities, those are the kinds of things that Republicans need to be talking about. And I had grown to a place where I was frustrated that I thought we were missing the message on that. So we just took a leap of faith and jumped in, and we're very grateful, and still to this day with the privilege it is to serve. But we cannot rest and get comfortable until we are able to penetrate all of the communities, that we have a message of hope for everyone.
Bringing that message of hope to people may be the key skill that Walker honed in his journey in ministry. It is a journey that he hesitated making for several years, but which he says ultimately was at least partly inspired by his father.
Well, I grew up as the son of a Baptist preacher. I have two younger brothers, and we grew up, and I could spend a couple hours talking about my father. He's my hero as far as just the life that he's lived. Still a pastor in his 70s, but taught us really. He came from a tough background in South Alabama, no education, et cetera, and with all different stereotypes in the 50s and 60s. But what he's done to grow himself personally and to teach myself and my younger brothers to love people for who they are, regardless of status, is something that we've always cherished. Now, growing up in that environment, I wanted no part of it. I chose business and finance and worked about 5 or 6 years, and it wasn't until my mid to late 20s that I felt called to move into the ministry area. Didn't necessarily know that that's for sure is what I wanted to do, but we pursued it anyway, went back to school and served for 18 years in various roles, as you mentioned. Served some time as a music and worship pastor, directed a large choir and orchestra, and traveled with high school choir mission trips, took 200 one time to Brussels, Belgium, and spent some times working in refugee camps over there, and also served as an executive pastor and a senior pastor role as well. An executive pastor in some of your large mega churches may manage up to 20, 25 other pastors in the facilities, keeps an idea on the budgets, and some of these budgets are up to $15, $20 million, and you just kind of manage the entire process. And then a senior pastor is one that we would probably think of sometimes as far as the gentleman who does the speaking or the preaching, if you will, depending on what denomination, week in and week out. And having the opportunity to serve in those different roles and dealing with the different aspects, I believe was a great benefit for me.
Chairman Walker, thank you for talking to us.
And welcome to Greensboro, North Carolina, the heart of our district here in North Carolina. It's a privilege, and we hope you'll come back again sometime.